Hello, I'm Sensei Alex Kakio, and the title of today's talk is Buddhist Lessons from Joe Exotic, aka the Tiger King. But before we get into that, I'd like to remind you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post talks in the future. Also, if you'd like to read a chapter from my book, Perfectly Ordinary Buddhist Teachings for Everyday Life, which is now available on Amazon, there's a link to a free chapter in the description for this talk. Now, I just spent the last day and a half binge watching a show called Tiger King, which is available on Netflix. I'd resisted watching it, but it kept showing up on my Twitter and my Facebook news feeds, and I gave in to peer pressure. And I wasn't disappointed. Honestly, I'm still trying to make sense of everything I saw. There is a lot going on there, but I do think there are a lot of good things in the show for us as Buddhist practitioners that we can use in our own daily life. And I say this because the Lotus Sutra teaches us that everyone is a Buddha. Everyone, good, bad, neutral, doesn't matter. We're all Buddhas. So as Buddhas, everyone we meet, either in person or through the media, is here to teach us a lesson about the Dharma, either in how we should act and behave, or how we should not act and behave in daily life. And in watching Tiger King, needless to say, I saw a lot of examples of how we should not behave as spiritual practitioners. And there's a lot of interesting characters in the docuseries, but I'm really just going to focus on Joe Exotic and his example, for time. And I should preface this by saying that Joe experienced some pretty severe trauma early in life. He was gay, and his family was not accepting of that, to the point where his father, according to the series, made him shake his hand, and he made Joe promise that when his father died, he wouldn't come to his funeral. Now, obviously, I can only imagine how hurtful that must have been. But Joe responded by attempting to commit suicide in his car. He survived the attempt, and now he had to figure out how he's going to live his life and deal with all of this trauma. And he dealt with it, frankly, in a way that a lot of us deal with trauma when we're hurt, through sensual desire. We were in pain, so we try to find something outside of ourselves that will take the pain away. And in Joe's case, he chose drugs, sex, and money to try to deal with the pain he was experiencing. So he was very involved with meth and with alcohol. He ran a zoo where he had lots of exotic animals, tigers, lions, bears, etc. This led to him earning a lot of money. So he was very wealthy, and he was also a polygamist. He had 2 husbands. So he got the drugs, he got the sex, he got the money, and you would think that after fulfilling his sensual desires, he would have been a very happy, very contented person. But even before his downfall, at least to me, it looks like Joe was very insecure, very not at ease with himself, and very scared, frankly, and angry a lot of the time. So what can we learn from this? Well, first off, why didn't it work? If he wanted these things and he got these things, why wasn't he happy? And the reason for that is the happiness and the joy we experience from fulfilling our sensual desires. I like to call it cotton candy joy or junk food joy. So when I was a kid, we used to go to the amusement park every year, and I would eat a bunch of cotton candy because it was delicious. And then it tastes really good for a while, and then I'd get a stomach ache. A couple times I even threw up in the car. And I was a kid, so I didn't learn my lesson for a long time, but eventually I had to realize that just because cotton candy tastes good, it doesn't mean it's good for you. And this is the case with sensual desire, with things like drugs, money, sex. They feel really good in the moment. There's a reason we chase after these things, but eventually they wear thin. Eventually the happiness goes away, the joy goes away, and we're frustrated. So what do? We chase them more. And that works for a little while, and then it doesn't. And then Eventually, it just all falls apart, just like it did for Joe. So, what do we do with this? What do we do with our desires? Well, it should be noted that the Buddha in his wisdom said that there were three ways to deal with desire. We can renounce it, meaning we don't give into it at all. We can reduce it, meaning we have to accept the fact that this is a desire we need to live. And we just learn to deal with it skillfully in moderation, or we accept it. So this is just something I have to live with. I can't get rid of it. So whatever suffering comes my way, I just have to be okay with that. Now, in the case of drugs, this is talked about in the lay precepts. And the best way to understand Buddhism's take on drugs is the fifth precepts, which says, I vow to not abuse intoxicants. So what are intoxicants? Well, my take on this is we should not take any drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, that are not prescribed to us by a doctor. Outside of that, we should seriously think about abstaining from drugs, but alcohol is a drug. So if we're not going to abstain from something like alcohol, then we can reduce it, deal with it in moderation. However, I will say my life got really good when I stopped drinking alcohol. So that's something to think about. Right? I've never talked to anyone who said I was way too sober and I made a bad decision. So something to consider. In terms of money, Buddhism addresses this in the way of right livelihood, which is the fifth tenet, sorry, I had to count, the fifth tenet of the Noble Eightfold Path of Buddhism. Because we live in a capitalist society. We need to have jobs, we need to earn money to live. But we need to earn money in a way that doesn't cause harm to ourselves and others. We also need to spend our money in a way that doesn't cause harm to ourselves and others. This is talked about in the Anathapindika Sutta, where the Buddha said that earning and spending money righteously were two of the forms of bliss that we can experience as lay people. The other two being debtlessness and blamelessness. So we can do that. We can earn money through right livelihood. We can spend our money righteously. And really just investigate, what are we buying? What's the karma associated with it? Does it make life better or worse for myself and others? And then finally, sex. Everyone's favorite topic, right? Now for monastics, this is very straightforward. Monastics are expected to take a vow of celibacy. For lay people, however, it's a little bit different. If you're at a retreat, they would probably expect you to take a vow of celibacy for that time, just so you can focus 100% on your training. Outside of that, we have the fourth lay precept, which is, I vow to not abuse sexuality. So what does this mean? Well, my reading of the fourth precept is, I will abstain from sex outside of committed monogamous relationships. So no hookups, no one-night stands, sorry, no Tinder or Grindr for a Buddhist. I didn't make the rules. It's just that if we maintain sexuality within a committed monogamous relationship, then we are less likely to end up like Joe did, where one of his husbands committed suicide and another left him for a woman. So, yeah. I think that about covers it. Desire causes a lot of problems, and we need to make sure that we deal with our desires skillfully, and that we're not using our desire in order to cover over some wound from our past. That's the talk for today. I hope it was helpful. If you'd like to read articles I've written about Buddhist practice, you can do that at my blog, The Same Old Zen. You can also email me at sameoldzen@gmail.com if you'd like to learn more. Or you can leave a comment in the comment section below. I promise I'll respond. I love talking to you guys. So that's it for today. Until next time, Amitabha.